The following is an Infinity One Productions presentation, keeping it honest, insightful, interactive. Covering the latest in wrestling and beyond, you're listening to the RCWR Show with Lee Sanders.
Sanders coming at you with an all-new special weekend edition of the RCWR Show, coming at you on May 4th, 2013, 2 minutes past the 2 o'clock hour on the East Coast. Thank you all so much for checking out today's episode. Now, for our long-time listeners, we know that there's probably a key group of you all that are used to hearing about mainly wrestling talk, and as we dive into a little bit of entertainment headlines, but today's special is just going to be dedicated to one thing only. Of course, it came out officially in movie theaters Friday night. Yours truly, I am actually back from assignment as I had went to go see Marvel's Iron Man 3 starring Robert Downey Jr., Guy Pearce, Gwyneth Paltrow, King, Ben Kingsley, Don Cheadle. Hey, we're going to dive all into it. If you haven't seen the movie yet, you don't mind hearing some spoiler alerts, I'm definitely going to give you my honest review of the movie, as we know that there are those passionate comic book fans that are out there that may have seen this movie and they are a bit on the fence, is maybe a light word to use. They're pretty pissed off at some of the things that they had saw in this movie. I'm just going to give you an honest review of this movie. Of course, our phone line is open, as we definitely want to hear from you all this afternoon. Number to call, as always, 646-478-3525. Once again, that's 646-478-3525. Listen to the prompts. Get yourself heard live on the air. Shout out to you if you saw the movie. I definitely want to know what you had thought about the movie. I want to just take this time out to send a heartfelt thank you to the good staff over at Blog Talk Radio for featuring today's episode. I didn't even know what the heck I was thinking, quite honestly. I wanted to talk about Iron Man. I know usually we got the movie guru buffs on Blog Talk that do a phenomenal job talking about the latest movies that's coming out in theaters, but I just thought that it made more and just perfect sense to talk about Iron Man 3 because it is a comic book character that I have just grown up with. I started my comic book collection at the age of 4 in the 80s, so that kind of gives you an idea how old I am. And one of the first comic books that I had ever picked up was an Iron Man comic book, and I was always just infatuated with the armor. To know that there was just this regular human being that was just inside all this hunk of metal, and he was just able to shoot these cool plasma beams from his hands and his chest, and he had flight ability, and he was just so smart as he was always kicking back. Tony Stark, always kicking back, trying to work on a new armor. The guy was just always innovative, just a freaking genius, and he lived life to the fullest. I mean, he was just one arrogant, flamboyant playboy. I mean, he was like, take that, Batman. I mean, that's really how I kind of looked at him. I always kind of looked at him as a Batman Bruce Wayne. I think that's a good assessment, yeah. So, I mean, I've been following the character for many, many years now. I have lost touch with comic books in recent years, but it's never stopped me from kicking back in, finding out, the very latest on what's been going on. Of course, as we all know, we had the whole Civil War thing that had went down in Marvel Comics a couple of years back that ended up playing a significant role on the last Marvel video game that had came out a couple of years back. And, for me, I don't know about you guys, but if you ever had picked up those Marvel video games, whether it's the Fighting Arcade or you're picking up the RPG, how many of us don't, sit up and take a glance at Iron Man and say, okay, I'm going to play as this one. The main ones that keep getting played is Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk. Those are the main guys. So, you could just imagine, knowing that background, now that I've set it up for you guys, you could just imagine how much in euphoria I was when the first Iron Man movie had came out back in 2008. And just to have known about the long history, I mean, for those of you that might not know, the Iron Man franchise, I mean, they have been trying to get this up and running since, like, the 1990s. But they kept having problems with the movie studio as the license just kept changing hands. I know Marvel had it at one point. They got rid of it, and then eventually they got it back. And you all know the history. For those of you that don't, earliest word that we heard originally before Robert Downey Jr. stepped in to the iconic role of Tony Stark was none other than Nicolas Cage. He wanted a shot at it. Thank God we didn't get that, okay? Then we heard the rumblings of Tom Cruise. He wanted to not only star in it, he wanted to produce it, and a lot of people kind of say, yeah, maybe he is the one. Maybe he can pull it off. But lo and behold, here comes Robert Downey Jr., and you just want to talk about perfect casting. I mean, peanut butter and jelly, perfect. The guy just freaking nails it. And for me to see what all had went down in that first Iron Man movie, I'm sure I speak for a lot of Iron Man fans worldwide that saw the first installment and say, man, love this guy as Tony Stark. Love Iron Man. The first Iron Man, I think for many of us, is always going to be dear to our heart, and that's why we're always probably going to continue to follow Iron Man in films. No doubt the second one didn't really have that much of a storyline substance, despite a pretty good villain portrayal by Mickey Rourke as Whiplash. Just seemed like there was just too many things going on in there. Even Robert Downey Jr. said, script-wise, that movie really wasn't that good, but it ended up making more money than the first one. This time around, I'm very happy to say to you guys, Iron Man 3, they got rid of the bitter taste that came from Part 2, and they just really picked up with the Tony Stark character right from the events in the Avengers. And I like how, and I'm letting you guys right now, I'm getting ready to go in depth about this. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, I don't know, you may not want to listen to this episode, but if you can have an open mind and you can definitely sit through this and then make up your own mind if you want to go see the movie or not, you're more than welcome to go check it out afterwards. But this is mainly a review about the movie and getting fans' reactions. So if you saw the movie, once again, you're more than welcome to call in. I'll give the number out in a little bit. But for now, no more teasing. Let's jump right into it. So this time around, Iron Man 3, we find that Tony Stark is in a bit of a rough spot as he is telling the story of what had went down with him back in 1999, where he went to this party and basically one thing had led to another with this girl that he had met who was very smart. I mean, better than Pepper, quite honestly. But he came across this guy that was there, and he had wanted to have a moment of their time as he had this groundbreaking technology that he wanted to introduce to them. And Tony told him, okay, well, look, I'm getting ready to have a little bit of fun, if you know what I mean. Won't you go on ahead, meet me on the roof. I'll see you in about 20 minutes. And the guy waited. Tony never came. And so you fast forward. Now we see kick-ass footage of the Mandarin. And the way that they did this, I just thought it was freaking brilliant. They did the Mandarin, portrayed by Sir Ben Kingsley, as like a badass guru Osama bin Laden, who is just like doing all these weird terrorist acts, and he's threatening America. I mean, it just kind of felt bone-chilling to kick back and watch this stuff play out. And you see him in his traditional green outfit. He's got the long beard going on. He's got the rings going. It's exactly the Mandarin that you remember. If you were a comic book fan and you remember your Iron Man comics, it's exactly playing out so far like it is in the comics. Only Mandarin doesn't have green, blue skin, whatever you want to call it. So as all this stuff is going on, you know, America, they're in a little bit of a rough spot. The president, he's not really sure how to deal with this guy except put War Machine on it. And there was actually a digital comic book that had came out leading to the release of Iron Man 3 that helped bridge the gap for James Rhodes, played by Don Cheadle, bridging the gap between Iron Man 2 to now, to let you know what all has been going on. And his armor has changed dramatically. It had red, white, and blue. I couldn't help but say, dang, it looks like Captain America armor right here. That's really the vibe that I was getting as I was seeing it. But they've eliminated the name War Machine. They're now calling him, I believe, the Iron Soldier. They gave him some weird name. It just totally sucked, though. I was like, no, War Machine sounds better. But we see that Tony Stark, he's just been busy building armor. He's been doing all kinds of crazy stuff, just staying busy. And we also realized early on that he's still a little bit traumatized by the events that had happened in the Avengers movie. Remember the final scene there, as he was in the armor, he was shooting, flying towards the sky there, and he was trying to get rid of the bomb. Otherwise, it was pretty much going to be the end of the world. And remember, his armor had shut down there and system failure, and looked like he was going to be dying a very vicious death. But luckily, I believe it was Thor and Hulk that had got him there at the end. But he's still been a little bit traumatized by that, and traumatized with the events that there's super powerful beings that's out there. There's gods and all types of sick, crazy stuff. And he's trying very hard to wrap his brain around it all while wanting to protect the one that he cares and loves about the most, which is Pepper. And we see that Pepper is still pretty much in charge of the day-to-day operations at Stark Enterprises. We do see John Favreau, the original Iron Man director. He's back as the bodyguard, but this time around he doesn't have that much of a dominant role as he did in the last one. It kind of was a slow progression there. First one, you know, we just kind of saw him do a little something. Part two, it seemed like he played more of a pivotal role, but this time around, you know, we didn't really get that much camera time of him, which I thought was good because the emphasis really needed to be put more on the main cast. And Gwyneth Paltrow's character, Pepper, she gets a visit from this guy, and it turns out it's the same guy that Tony Stark had met back in 1999, and talk about no longer looking like an ugly duckling. This guy has a whole GQ thing going on. I mean, the guy just, you know, he kind of had like a Val Kilmer type of deal going on. Of course, I'm talking about Guy Pearce here, and he basically has this business proposal that he's trying to put out there that he wants for Pepper to jump on board, because he knows that Tony wouldn't agree to it, but that she seems to be the more smarter one. She turns him down. That's pretty much it right there. And then later on in the movie, we see the bodyguard. I always forget his name. I think it's Poppy, I always forget his name, but the John Ferrer, you know, the bodyguard character. We see him later on in the movie. He is getting these weird impressions that something isn't quite right with the Guy Pearce character, so he ends up following him around to see what all he's up to, and he ends up going to this weird public place where there's a guy giving this other guy a briefcase, and he makes it his business after the exchange goes down to bump into him, and he finds this silver-like type of, it looked like alien device to me or something like that. I'm really not sure what to really make of it, as we really didn't get to see from a camera angle perspective. It wasn't on whatever this silver metallic item was. And after, you know, he bumps into the guy, he actually manages to grab a piece for himself, but he bumps into the same guy that did the exchange with the man. The guy was asking him, you know, what are you doing here? You know, shouldn't you be doing something else? And fight breaks out. Turns out this guy is on some amped up stuff because he's got all these red veins coming out of his eyes, coming out of his neck. I mean, it's like some Terminator 2 type of crazy crap that's going on. He's like mixed in with this hot molten lava crap, alien, whatever you want to call it. And pretty much our boy John, he gets messed up big time as there's this explosion that just ends up happening that sends him to the hospital. And meanwhile, Mandarin, he is still sitting up and he's still doing all these terrorist acts that's just taking over the airwaves across all nations. And Tony Stark, he basically puts a challenge out there to the Mandarin and says, look, you hurt my friend. This is definitely personal. We don't need the government to get involved in this. Let's do this mano a mano. Tell you what, here's my home address. You know where I am. You know where to find me anytime you're ready. Man, talk about balls on Tony Stark, because I don't know. I guess he didn't think Mandarin was willing to do anything, but we would later see in the movie, Mandarin would have his people come on by, and they just destroyed the hell out of Tony Stark's beautiful-looking penthouse. And what was really kick-ass as all of this was going on, we actually got to see Pepper in the Iron Man armor. She really wasn't sure what the hell she was doing in it, but it was really cool because she almost died, and Tony had managed to have the armor get on her. Yeah, by the way, that's one of the main things that he's been playing around with since last we had dropped in on him, as now he has inserted these implants into his skin to be able to summon his armor from wherever, and it would come in handy big time throughout the course of this film. But it was really cool to see Gwyneth in the Iron Man armor for a little bit. I thought it was kind of hot. She kind of reminded me of Metroid there. You know, it just had a Samus vibe to it there. And, eventually we do see Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark character. He does finally get into the Iron Man armor. But the armor that he's in, I believe it was Mach 42. And it was pretty much the gold, all gold armor, a little touch of red that you see in it. But the gold is what's really dominating. If you've been looking at the posters, then you'll know the armor that I'm talking about. Since it's a Mach 42, this prototype, it wasn't really complete. Didn't have the flight capabilities kicking in just yet, didn't have the weapons kicking in just yet, and he ended up drowning in an ocean for a good minute. But Jarvis, who also played a big role in this movie this time around, had managed to save Tony by overriding the armor and getting him out of the water. And the armor with Tony in it actually ended up taking a little bit of a trip down out in Texas as Tony was trying to figure out where exactly is the Mandarin's location, and he was trying to follow up on a lead that had led him to Texas to try to figure out the whereabouts of a soldier. And fortunately, the armor, it breaks down, no more juice, and he just crashes big time in Texas when he lands. It's cold, it's just icy cold, it's freaking snowing, and Tony Stark is pretty much in a bad spot from here as he's trying to seek refuge, and along the way he bumps into a little kid. And this is really just where, as I'm kind of playing back the movie in my mind, it was more, for the first half of the movie, it just kind of seemed like maybe it was a little bit talkative there, but it was good talkative as we saw the Tony Stark character that we've come to know and love. It was basically getting back what we saw in the first one, just a little bit more amplified, and just the relationship that Tony was having with this little kid that he came across. It was just freaking so sarcastic and ridiculous. Some of the most ridiculous stuff that you could ever imagine as a guy saying to a kid that's not yours. Just freaking hilarious stuff that he was saying to this kid. But the kid was actually a sweetheart because, he was helping him try to get the armor back up to 100%, all that good stuff. And meantime, Tony, he's in a bad spot. He realizes that his armor isn't quite up to 100%, so he's not going to be able to try to go find the Mandarin. And he runs into the red creatures that I was talking about earlier. It turns out Guy Pearce's character, he has this serum that he's basically injecting into people, and it can regenerate limbs. It's got these weird, freaky side effects to it. Like I said, it turns people red. It has them turning into this, hot, liquidy lava type of fluid, and, you're not able to kill them easily. You got to do some extreme crap just to take them out, and Tony was actually getting his ass kicked a couple of times that he ran into them, and he did run into them in Texas, but he was luckily able to ward them off, and eventually he's able to pinpoint the location of the Mandarin. And here is where things had got pretty interesting, folks, because turns out the Mandarin, get ready for this, is nothing more than a stage actor. And this is really one of the biggest things that had pissed off a lot of the comic book fans out there that saw this movie. They did not like seeing their precious Mandarin be stripped away of the rings. He has no powers. They really weren't buying into this. And I'll touch up a little bit more on that in a little bit. But in a nutshell, I thought this was freaking brilliant, the way that they did this. And we see some bodyguards that take out Tony. And next time around that, he wakes up, he runs into the Guy Pearce character named Dr. Aldrich Killian, and he pretty much reveals to him, it sucks that you didn't meet me on the roof that night. It's funny how things pretty much come back to bite you in the ass, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, yeah, by the way, I got your girlfriend. I gave her an injection of the stuff that, the men that you fought, that they got it. So I gave her just enough of a dose to help her live, but what's inside of her, she's fighting it, but if I give her a little bit more of it, it'll take over and she'll be lost to you forever, yada, 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 crap like that. And, it turns out Dr. Killian, he actually injected himself with this stuff. Now, the girl that turns out Tony had met years and years ago at that party, she had tried to come back to warn him early in the movie, but it looks like she's in on it. As it turns out, Dr. Killian is working for the Mandarin. At least this is what we're led to believe. And she actually tried to tell Killian to back down, that he shouldn't be going this route, and she threatened to kill herself. Well, dumb move right there, because he ended up killing her with a gun. And he pretty much was like, okay, and what? And he left Tony Stark alone at his own devices, surrounded by bodyguards. And luckily, his armor, 100% good. He was able to give it a, I'm trying to figure out the right words to tell you guys, but as I said earlier, he had got the neural implants inserted into his arms and everything. So he pretty much was able to call his armor. Action picks right back up again, and then from pretty much there, it's pretty much all Iron Man from here on out. Now, fortunately, we really didn't get to see Don Cheadle as James Rhodes' War Machine. We really didn't get him that much in this movie. He didn't even really play that much of a serious role at the end, although I will give him credit where it's due. He played a large part in trying to save the president of the United States, as we were able to find out that Dr. Killian was the Mandarin that was orchestrating everything the entire time, and not the type of Mandarin that you comic book buffs are thinking. Just the whole aura of the Mandarin is what he had created through cinematography and visual effects, all that stuff. And, it was, I just want to pause right there and just say that, overall, because we did see these two guys, they would end up fighting one another. It was a damn good fight, and I mean, time and time again, I'm sure you guys saw the trailers. You saw all the Iron Man armors that just came out, and we saw it in epic fashion as it came out to save Tony and James. They were in a pretty bad, rough spot as they were taking on more of Dr. Killian's creatures, if you want to call it that. And we saw an emotional moment where it looked like Pepperhead got killed. Turned out she wasn't. And she played a huge role in saving Tony's ass after he went through about at least 12 armors trying to fight this damn guy. I mean, it was visually just freaking awesome, though. And I want to just say this. I've given you guys enough info about the movie so far. I want to just say this about the movie. Visually stunning. Shane Black, though, as a director, including this Iron Man film, he only has about 2 films under his belt, grand total. He's done a lot of screenplays. He's done a few roles acting-wise. He did a phenomenal job with this movie, and I know John Favreau, he wasn't really too far behind. If you ended up looking at the credits, you saw that there was a special thanks to Josh Whedon, and I'm quite sure that he definitely loaned some you could kind of tell, that looks like a Josh Whedon thing. You could kind of tell as you were watching the film there that Josh Whedon kind of had a little bit of fingerprints here and there. And hands down, this movie, it definitely lived up to what all had went down in part 1. For me, part 2, it was kind of weak. I definitely want to bring in the lovely Tammy, because I know she also had saw the Iron Man film. What was your take of Iron Man overall?
Overall, I thought, for basically the trilogy, for me, that was probably the best one. Overall, the movie experience was a lot of twists and turns. It really kept you somewhat guessing to what was going to happen next, and there were so many moments where you're going, what in the world,
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of kept you guessing, but then it kind of, so many twists and turns, like I was saying, that you really wondered what was going to happen next. But visually and just action-packed, visually, it was on point. You know, I remember saying to myself a few times, just saying, wow. You know, because of some scene or some part of the movie just, you know, caught me, you know, like that. So overall, the movie was a must see, especially if you're an Iron Man fan or, you know, the Avengers as a whole.
Yeah.
Definitely a must see.
Yeah, and I hope you guys had appreciated it. And Tammy, hopefully I handled, I don't know how much of it you heard, but hopefully I handled reviewing the movie well. You know, I really don't like to, you know, do a frame by frame, but hopefully I gave you folks enough substance to kind of, you know, maybe form your own opinion if you haven't seen the movie that, okay, well, you know, maybe this is something that, you know, should be checked out. I know I do want to just diffuse the rumors that's going about online. And, Tammy, we were talking about this, which was, you know, we got some people that want to prematurely compare last year's Avengers to this Iron Man movie, and some of the reports that's coming out there from these so-called movie reviewers, they're saying that this movie, you know, lacks in what Avengers had. It is not quite up to par. And I thought you made a very valid point in saying that, you know, of course, everybody's probably going to try to compare Avengers to Iron Man, but, you know, you said it's a unfair assessment, and let the folks know why.
Well, I basically said that's quite an unfair assessment to categorize Iron Man as in that same category as, you know, Avengers, because you have all the characters in Avengers and you have all the key points of those characters in Avengers, as opposed to Iron Man, you only have one.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, that is very unfair to categorize that due to that very fact.
Yeah.
You know, it just depends on what your love of each character is and how you go with that character. You know, if you like all of them separately, awesome. And it's kind of like excuse the word, but when you have all of them together, it's more like a climax where you actually are putting all the pieces together, mm-hmm. as opposed to just one entity at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to go with their own separate stories.
Right. I agree with that 100% because, see, Iron Man 2 was nothing more than setting up the Avengers. And unfortunately, as a result of that, we really didn't get the full-blown Tony Stark experience.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, you know, Iron Man 3, it really did justice because it reminds you why you fell in love with Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, Iron Man, in the first place. You
mm-hmm.
know, you're just reminded of that as really he just stole the freaking show. I mean, I thought he stole the scenes in Avengers, but I mean, he really, this time around, he just really captured the screen. He really commanded it, you know, just like he did in the first one. And visually, just all the stuff that they were doing in this one, this time around, I mean, my God, man. I mean, just freaking insane. I mean, there were so many near-death experiences that Tony was in, and his armor just out of nowhere just kept bailing his ass out. I was thinking to myself, I wish I had some armor like that could get me out of a little pickle like that. And you know what's really funny though is the fact that this time around, as far as post-production had went, now unlike the first two Iron Man films, folks, Industrial Light and Magic, they weren't involved in this third film as far as the visual effects go. Instead, Scanline, VFX, Digital Domain, Weta Digital, and Framestore, they all had pretty much did the visual effects for this Iron Man 3. So you're definitely able to notice the huge difference there. And honestly, I thought it was pretty damn good the way that they handled it. I mean, they went all balls out, and I think they went all balls out for good reason. Of course, if you've been paying attention to Robert Downey Jr. and crew and the contracts that they signed on when they did this Iron Man trilogy and all that, and they're working other future Iron Man movies and Avenger movies or whatever little other spin-offs that they signed up to do, you all will know that Tony, that's pretty much it. We're not going to be seeing the Tony Stark character, at least at this point, not until the next Avengers movie. Now, Robert Downey Jr., his contract with Marvel Studios has expired upon the release of Iron Man 3, and right now they're trying to work out an extension to at least see him come back in Avengers 2. Now, we're hearing that it's possible that there could be a fourth one or a fifth one, and Tammy, not to kind of give it away because we gave a lot as it is, but the way Iron Man 3 ends, you kind of can't help but kind of sit up and say, well, where do you go from here? How do you, because, I know you and me were talking about this for a few minutes. It's like, okay, well, how do we get back to that point of Tony in the Iron Man armor, or are we even going to get him in the Iron Man armor? And it's very interesting, the position that Marvel Studios is in right now. And, Tammy, I got to put you on the spot. I mean, do you think at this point, with an aging crew, we were talking about this before we came on the air, Robert Downey Jr., he looks damn good, 48 years old. Don Cheadle looks damn good, 48 years old. Gwyneth Paltrow, I love her to death, but her age is starting to show. 40 years old, still young, but unfortunately, she looks a little bit older than that, and I don't like saying that about her because I love her. But do you think we might be getting to that point right now where Marvel Studios is kind of kicking back and going, maybe it's time we recast these guys and get some folks maybe in their late 20s that we can definitely get like maybe 6 films out of, because Marvel Studios, and it should be noted right here, they said with or without Robert Downey Jr., they will go on with Tony Stark.
Of course. And really what they did what they did with the film, it led you to believe either way you could still come back with something else. You could still leave yourself an out, whether it's a new character, or not a new character, whether it's a new actor playing that character, or the same character being portrayed by the same actor. So, yes, it could go either way. The writers would really have to do some interesting stuff to make that happen in, the fourth installment. And most studios, what they'll probably do is they may not call it Iron Man 4. They may call it Iron Man blah, 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 and blah.
Yeah.
As a, what is it? Rejuvenated kind of a thing. So, that is absolutely, it was the script, the way the script was, they're covering their butt any way you look at it.
I agree with that 100%.
Honestly, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And it was, I really, and I love, I like seeing those type of movies, but I tell you what, this is probably the only one that I would honestly tell you that I could go see again. It was, for me, it was that good.
I don't know. I mean, I'm still a little conflicted. I mean, it was a good movie, but I just felt a little unfulfilled. I'm trying to, as best as I could, to kind of figure out why do I feel a little unfulfilled, because it had the action, it had the visual effects, it had the great acting, and I'm trying to look at the areas where I felt kind of unfulfilled, and maybe it was just because of the way it just concluded, because there's so many other storylines.
Because of the conclusion, you're not quite sure how to feel about it. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of mixed reaction, a lot of mixed reviews because of that.
And for those that are upset over the way that they did the Mandarin, we should point out to you that Jon Favreau, when he was still at the helm, right after he did the first Iron Man movie, he was asked, are you going to do the Mandarin next? Are you going to do the Demon in the Bottle storyline? What are you going to do next? And I remember vividly, he talked about the Mandarin. He said, Mandarin is very tricky. You can't just sit up and go, here's this magical guy with rings. And he pretty much said, okay, if we were to approach this, it would have to be from a political government standpoint. And remember, folks, we saw a little bit of a Mandarin reference in the first Iron Man movie, as there was a little terrorist group running around known as the 10 Rings, thus referencing the 10 rings that is usually on the fingers of the Mandarin. So there was the early drop right there, and I thought it was kind of clever the way that John had just kind of left that as kind of, okay, I planted this, maybe we can come back to it later. And I'm actually glad that they came back to it, and I like the unique approach that they took to it. I thought it was very clever. And would you agree with the assessment I had said earlier of the Mandarin just kind of coming off as a mega badass Osama bin Laden there?
Yeah, I would agree that I definitely liked the spin on the way they did it, as far as, in making him the character that he was. I do agree that was a good angle. That was a really good angle. It was believable.
Yeah, damn believable. And for those of you that haven't seen the movie yet and you plan on seeing it, you have friends, you have family members that haven't seen the movie yet, I can't stress this enough. Tell them to stay through the damn credits. My God, God, we were kicking back looking at that thing, and I'm still amazed at the amount of people that well, movie's over. That was good. And I'm thinking to myself, as always, you obviously have not seen a Marvel movie, because anybody that has seen a Marvel movie, at least when it comes to the main players in the Avengers flicks, they're going to give you an Easter egg at the end of the credits. And the theater was like freaking empty by the time we got to see the Easter egg, and it was well worth the wait. I got to ask you, as we're wrapping this up, do you think Marvel needs to do Robert Downey Jr. and the comic book fans justice and try to do all they can to get him to sign on a dotted line to possibly come back for a fourth or a fifth? Do you see this definitely going to a fourth, fifth, maybe even a sixth or seventh, or keeping in the back of your mind the age of Robert Downey Jr.? Are you kind of saying to yourself, honestly, okay, yeah, maybe two more, but that should do it?
I honestly think that they first of all, they should definitely sign him for a fourth. Definitely a fourth. If he can still do it, a fifth. Because he embodies that character. You think of Iron Man, you think of Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
And you're going to You're going to play heck trying to find somebody that will make that character as believable as he does. Because you're going to have people that are going to set up and say, for me, my Iron Man is Robert Downey Jr. And nobody can replace him.
Yeah.
So, you know, yes, if he can still do it and he can still be believable in doing it, no doubt that's who should be there. That's where he should be. If he's willing to come back and, you know, and do that and get it to the caliber that all the others are, absolutely, hands down. You know, but after a while, you're going to have to consider his age. After a while, there's no other way that you can look at that, because if he physically cannot, you know, maybe they can do him as a couple of cameos or something, but you're going to have to unfortunately find a replacement. Because at this point, you know that some of the stuff that they're doing now in the movie, there's a stunt double.
The thought process, yeah. You're right about that. And, I mean, one thing we need to point out to you guys, I like to throw numbers out there to you. The first Iron Man movie, you know, they were on a $140 million budget, okay? Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000, $140 million budget, box office, total numbers. This is for the first Iron Man movie. $585 million, 174, 200, blah, 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 okay? Try saying that 10 times fast. All right, the second one, okay, budget, $170 to $200 million. The box office numbers for that one, $623,933,331. Okay? Iron Man 3, so far, early numbers that's coming in, Tammy, it looks like they're going to break what they did in the last installment. So
I would be a bit surprised.
I mean, if these guys do not try to get Robert and crew signed on for another one, then, you know, they're definitely going to get a huge outcry of hate mail from comic book fans everywhere that's going to be demanding that they get Robert back.
Good, just like I said, for some people, he is their Iron Man. He is the face of that character.
Should be very interesting to see how they do this. Yeah, I mean, because now they're definitely at a crossroads. The one thing that I will tell you guys, and this was after the Easter egg had popped up at the end. You almost miss it, but there was a text that had popped up at the end, and it was plain and simple. Tony Stark will return. And again, the way it's looking right now, he may not return until the next Avengers movie. And at this point, my God, we have Thor, what's that, in November. Captain America won't be until next year. So if they're going to do a...
And let's not forget, Wolverine is coming out in July.
Yeah, but Wolverine's not really an Avenger, you know? Yeah.
He's a supporting cast.
Yeah, not even supporting cast. He just, you know, Wolverine's just in his own little thing, you know. He's X-Men related. So,
I see.
Yeah, if they're going to start putting in the seeds for the next Avengers movie, then they're going to have to do something with Thor to drop those plants and then follow it up next year with Captain America. And we're already getting word that War Machine is supposed to make a cameo in that one, so that should be pretty badass. And if we're going to see another Avengers movie, I would think at this point, possibly 2014, maybe 2015. But right now, all priorities is on setting up an Avengers 2. So for those of you hardcore Iron Man fans, you're going to have to wait patiently for that franchise, because Marvel is already saying if there is going to be another Iron Man, it's not going to happen until after Avengers 2. Keep in mind, this is also the same thing that they said for another Hulk movie. So, but overall scale of 1 to 10, I definitely got to give this movie a respected. Visual effects, I'm sold. I give the visual effects a 9. I give the script an 8. Could use a little bit of tweaking here and there, but I give it an 8. IMAX experience, and I definitely highly recommend you see it in IMAX experience. That's what really makes the movie just be total badass overall. Overall, I got to give the movie a 9 out of 10.
Mhm.
How would you rate it?
For me, I'd give the script between an 8 and a 9. Visual effects, a 10. Overall experience, honestly, for me, I'd have to give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it that much. From all aspects, the characters, the storyline, the visual effects, just the flow of the movie, it kept you guessing. Absolutely. For me, it was a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Let alone the whole IMAX experience, And what was so badass about seeing the movie? And folks, we saw this movie at like 9-something in the morning. Very interesting, diverse group of people that was out. I actually was paying attention to my surroundings. I mean, I saw 2 women in their late 40s just by themselves. They were seeing this movie. There was teenagers. There was little kids, and the little kids, they were so freaking quiet. I mean, this wasn't like, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, little kids, they're probably going to be yepping, just like in The Dark Knight Rises, and when they see Bruce Wayne trying to climb out of that little hole, they're like, yeah, Batman, yeah, and I'm thinking, oh God, here we go. But no, the kids were very quiet in this film. It was, mostly a lot of adults, at least for our group that we went to. It was a lot of adults that went to go see the movie, and that's always nice. I always welcome it, because I hate it when it's like an adult movie and somebody has a kid there. And, usually you see something that's geared towards the adults, some type of a little crude, little sex joke or whatever, and the adults are like, and then, 10 seconds later you hear a little kid go, it's like, do you even know what the joke was about? Why are you laughing, But we were on location at the Rio, and a great movie theater, always a great place to go check out flicks. And we were trying to set up shop there to broadcast the show live for you guys, and we were actually just going to bone rush people and interview them, but we weren't able to get clearance with the manager in time. And then there was bad internet connection there, so we ended up just saying, okay, well, next time around we'll definitely try to see if maybe we could, set up something more concrete, and maybe we can work with the manager next time around to be on location there. And the thing that I thought was so interesting, though, when you're trying to find people to interview, like roaches, they just scatter. It's like, oh, movie's over. It's like, that's the truth.
Yeah, that's true. Going on about my day, yeah.
I don't know how it was. I don't know how it was for you growing up, but I mean, when I would see movies growing up in the early '90s, going into the, I would say the mid 2000s. Whether it was by myself or I went with friends, after the movie was over, we would actually just kick back. We'd wait until the credits just rolled, just for the hell of it. We would just kick back and we would talk about what we just saw. And, we would go out after the credits finished rolling, and then we'd go chill on the sideline outside, you come out the theater and you're in the hallway part with the restrooms, and we just talk right there for a little bit, before, taking off. And it's like nowadays it's like people are just in such a rush. I bet you all those people that had left the theater earlier this morning before the credits were finished, I bet you're like, what? I missed what? Huh? And they're probably going to try to, hop on YouTube, see if they can see a bootleg version of what it was that they missed, which, really doesn't do it justice, quite honestly, because you should have got it on your dime when you were spinning it,
Mm-hmm.
And, but yeah, I just always am amazed at how quickly people just, all right, movie's over, we're done. It's like, take the time, enjoy yourself. Where you going? It's the damn weekend.
That's true.
That's my message. That's my message. It's the damn weekend. But good jump start to the kickoff of comic book movies. Of course, we got like a ton of other comic book movies that's going to be coming out later this year. I mean, as Tammy said, Wolverine, that's going to be coming out in July. Who else we got coming up? We got the Star Trek. What is that? Into the Void. Is that the name of it?
Mm-hmm.
That one looks pretty. I haven't even seen the last installment yet, and I definitely need to, because right now what I'm seeing of this new one, I'm hooked already. So I definitely want to see what went down in the last one there. I know there's a 300 movie that's supposed to be coming out, 300 Rise of an Empire. That's going to be coming out in August. We have Kick-Ass 2. That's going to be coming out in June. Man of Steel. That's going to be coming out a week before Kick-Ass. R.I.P.D. starring Jeff Bridges, Ryan Reynolds, Kevin Bacon, Mary Louise Parker. That's set to come out in July. Red 2 starring Bruce Willis, John Malkovich, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Helen Mirren. That's going to be coming out in August. You guys been patiently waiting. Looks like Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. That's going to be coming out in October. We got Clive Owen, Jamie King, Jamie Chung, Jessica Alba, Rosario Dawson, Mickey Rourke, Michael Madsen. Those guys are going to be lining it up there for that movie. So, I mean, this year is shaping up to be a really, really strong year for comic book movies. Just hearing the list so far, Tammy, who you want to see? What's got you saying? Okay, let's see how this bad boy does.
For me, Man of Steel looks like the one that I'm most interested in seeing next.
Visually, that just
sorry.
looks fucking breathtaking. Yeah.
That would be one of them, but Wolverine actually looks very interesting.
That nigga look ripped.
That too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wolverine looks like it's definitely trying to draw you in, to say, okay, there's a couple of little things in there that, you may make me want to come see it, yeah.
Yeah, and you haven't even seen the first one, have you?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I don't know. You might not need to see the first one, quite honestly. I thought the first one was okay, but this one looks like it's just blowing the hell out of that one. It's like, you got to see the trailer for it, folks. If you haven't seen it yet, you want to make sure you do, because, I mean, when you see Iron Man 3, you get just a boatload of Marvel trailers. I mean, it's freaking ridiculous. I couldn't help but at one point say, when's the movie going to start? we kept getting superhero movie trailers. I'm like, damn, And be on the lookout for Stan Lee. He is in the movie. I won't tell you the scene, but you'll be pretty happy when you do spot him. That's always my favorite joy of seeing a Marvel movie, is trying to pinpoint where Stan Lee is. Although, if I'm not mistaken, I got to do my homework. He didn't pop up in the last Wolverine movie. I wonder if he's going to pop up in this one, but always a joy to see Stan Lee. Always gets the folks cracking a smile there. I definitely can't wait to see this Iron Man 3 come out in a box set. Hopefully they do it justice and they give us a little trilogy box set with some exclusives, Blu-ray exclusives at that, some unique packaging, maybe a digital download. It'd be kind of nice to see them hook it up there. But my hat's off to Marvel. You know, they're kicking it off strong, and now we need to see how the rest of these movies go. But so far, Iron Man's off to a good start. I don't know. I'm kind of getting the vibe that they might not be able to keep this title that long. But for now, they've got their time in the sun until Superman comes out. And, of course, we'll definitely review the new Man of Steel movie, and we'll definitely actually be on location at that one. We'll definitely have necessary clearance and all that by then, and we're definitely will do our best to talk with people. One more time, I want to go on ahead and offer the phone number. Anybody that saw the movie, you're more than welcome to give us a call. I'm looking at the numbers right now. How many people have checked out the show, and a lot of numbers right now. Good numbers. I like seeing that. But for those of you that are listening to us live right now, if you saw the movie, you'd like to talk about it or anything that we had discussed about the movie, you're more than welcome to call before we wrap it up for today. You can call at 646-478-3525. Once again, the number is 646-478-3525. And otherwise, hey, thanks for checking out this episode, and we definitely want to let you guys know, if you're listening to this for the very first time, if you happen to like wrestling or you know somebody that's heavy into wrestling, myself and co-host Diamond K, we do a show on Tuesday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, right here on blogtalkradio.com. We cover the fallout from WWE programming such as Raw, SmackDown, what have you. Also talk about the latest in wrestling headlines. And we give it a very unique approach. We do it in a laid-back, fun and witty type of way, and we are usually interviewing special guests. And take this coming Tuesday night, we're going to be interviewing former WWE and TNA wrestler, the beautiful, the lovely Katarina Waters, otherwise known as Katie Birchhill, Katie Lee, Miss Winter. She's going to be joining us for an exclusive interview, so check that out. We also do a show on Thursday nights on YouTube. It's called Impact Showdown Live. You can catch that at 10 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. Just look us up at the RCWR show. It's a live show. We cover the fallout from TNA, Impact Wrestling, also cover the latest in wrestling-related news and beyond. I know it kind of threw our listeners off last Thursday night, but we want to let you guys know we're not going to be simulcasting on Thursday nights. I repeat, as far as Impact Showdown goes, we will not be simulcasting. What that means is, for you Blog Talk Radio listeners, we know you guys love calling into the show on Thursdays to listen, but you'll want to be on YouTube. That's where we're going to be doing the show from now on. If you want to download the show, you'll be able to do so, as we will make the episode be available through Blog Talk about an hour after we're done doing the live show. So you'll have to wait that long. But, again, YouTube is where you want to be on Thursday nights. Tammy, I'll give you last thoughts as we're wrapping it up here.
Well, as last thoughts really is, what a great experience, whether it's, going out with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or just taking the kids to see it. Great experience overall. Definitely a must-see if you're an avid comic book fan or just an avid, fan of the characters. Absolutely a must-see. And thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to join us.
I echo those same sentiments, and for those of you that aren't quite up to par on Iron Man, I highly encourage you, if you have Netflix, I highly encourage you to hop on Netflix, type in the keywords Iron Man. You'll get to see an animated movie that's about 90 minutes that came out from Marvel Animation Studios a couple of years back, right around the time that the first live-action Iron Man film came out. You'll get to see one of my favorite Iron Man animated series that I grew up on in the 90s, lasted a couple of seasons. You want to check that out. That'll get you caught up to speed, give you a good taste of the Iron Man characters and the villain. You'll have a more better insight into the Mandarin character and kind of be able to understand why some people are kind of venting in frustration over the way that it was portrayed in the live-action movie, and maybe you could come up with your own opinion. If I were to mention a trade paperback book, as today is comic book day, so make sure that on top of seeing Iron Man 3, you represent your local comic book store and give them some business, because without them, we wouldn't be able to see all these great movies, as they're coming from comic books. And a lot of people, they don't really realize that. But, I think year after year after year, the comic book industry, they are really proving that with the right type of cast, director, script, that a movie based off of a comic book graphic novel can be taken very seriously, to the point where you don't necessarily have to read 50 to 100 comic books just to be able to make some type of a connection with a character. And I think the comic book industry, it just continues to get better and better every single year. And definitely support your local comic book store. And for those of you that end up going to the Beyond Comic store out here in Gaithersburg, make sure you let them know Lee Sanders of the RCWR show has sent you. Represent. She's the one and only, the beautiful Tammy. I'm the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders. Make sure you join me in Diamond Cave this Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern for our special guest, Katarina Waters, as we're talking all things wrestling and beyond. And in the meantime, go out there. The weather is very lovely. Good opportunity to see some good stuff in theaters. Check out Iron Man 3. Everybody be safe, be kind to one another. Take care.
Bye-bye.